These are finger guards. They're pieces of plastic or rubber material which go over the string, which allows you to shoot the bow without having finger protection, because this is your finger protection. And a lot of people ask when they're buying the bows, should they get these? And there's a particular reason why we use these and why we don't recommend most people do. So firstly, what are these rubber finger guards good for? As you can see here, you can probably guess, this is not my personal bow. This is the bow we use at our club. And that's a big clue as to what kind of place would most likely use the finger guards. It's places like clubs, school camps, outdoor activity centers, which go through a lot of different users. The main benefit of finger guards is that you can give this bow to anybody and they can immediately shoot it without having their own personalized protection. Now, other places will give things like gloves or finger tabs for finger protection, because we always protect our fingers when shooting. But in many cases, it's not practical to hand these out to everybody. Not only does it slow the process down of giving people these items and make sure they know how to use it properly, people often walk away with them. So the solution is to use these finger guards and give people the bows so they can use it right away. They can see visually where to put their fingers. They still need to be told where exactly to put the fingers. That isn't obvious sometimes, but they're fairly simple and straightforward to use. And of course, they function as intended. So as a learner, a first timer, someone doing their very first introductory class, you can put the arrow on, put your fingers on the finger guards, and learn to shoot like a pro within a minute. So the question then becomes, if you're buying your own bow, should you get your own finger guards? I hate them. Not only do they look kind of ugly, to be honest, they feel really thick and clumsy. When you're a learner, it doesn't matter so much, because you're just having fun. You're trying to get your arrows close to target as possible and get bullseyes, and a sort of fun thing you do, right? So you can just put your arrow on, fumble around, and then have a nice thick chunky feel, so it feels safe, and your fingers don't hurt at all. It's really straightforward. But it just feels so weird, because the strings don't feel like this. They feel like this. You want more contact and sensitivity with your fingers. So you're quite happy to have your own glove or finger tap and feel the string on your fingertips, because it gives you better feedback. Not only that, but it also is kind of awkward to use, because you might be used to knocking arrows very quickly. You simply knock on the string, slide it up, or you knock between the knocking points. You have these setups, you have to be really carefully thread it so it sits comfortably inside the finger guards. And sometimes you just don't want that. You want more response and faster speeds. And again, on the fingertips, it feels very thick and cold. I don't really have a way to describe this that's kind of PG rated, but it feels like you would rather do this unprotected. Oh, sorry, children. Basically, it never feels quite right, because again, you normally have the string touching your fingers at full draw, but because of these thick, almost rigid, they're not quite rigid, they are flexible, but because of how long and thick, because of the shape and the material of the finger guard, it doesn't quite move with the string the way you expect it to. And there are some small things as well, things like the anchor feels kind of different with the finger guards, and more so the weight distribution feels off, because it's kind of spread out over a larger surface area rather than on your fingertips, which is what helps you feel the shot. So those are some fine points. Performance-wise, these do add weight to your string, and it's not much weight, but anything which adds weight to the string will slow it down. So if you're shooting competition, you really don't want these. Not only is it less sensitive and a bit tougher to manipulate, it does slow you down, and that's going to bother you in competition. I also want to quickly point out that the size of the finger guards can make it quite difficult to get a clean release. And as you can see in this footage, I do have a problem with the arrows fishtailing, which I normally wouldn't have with a finger tab or shooting bare fingers, but as you can see here, that is a very wicked kick, which I wouldn't otherwise have experienced. So when should you use these guards? Well, if you're having a bow which is shared between a lot of people, then this is quite appropriate. The big factor here is for clubs and schools and camps. You go through hundreds of people, so therefore these can be quite economical and very practical to give to people. The other way you see this is through like family bows. So maybe your family shares one bow for recreation, maybe shooting at home or taking out to the farm, and you want to give it to your kids, then this might be an easy way to have a bow for everybody without fidgeting with gloves and finger tabs. And of course you should be using protection of some sort. So having young children learn to shoot with this would be quite easy to do compared to being picky with what's on your fingers. But as I said, once you get your own bow and you're shooting more seriously, you don't need these. Gloves and finger tabs are completely fine and preferred in most cases. And look, I don't want to say these are horrible. I mean, as a club instructor, I use these things all the time to demonstrate, so I'm used to the process of knocking arrows and showing people how to do so, and you get used to shooting with it as it is, so there's no problem with shooting accurately with what you have. So looks fine for me. So it's not slow. Of course, shooting close distance, perfect X's. So you can shoot well with it. It just feels weird. And just for comparison, we'll shoot one without a finger guard. Yeah, that feels actually so much nicer. It's just that the guards feel just too thick. And they're not bad, but you don't get the same feeling and contact as you would when you're shooting with your fingers or with a finger tab. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Again, they're not bad, they're just used for a particular purpose. And if you are using your own bow and you're taking it seriously, then you probably don't need finger guards, and finger tabs or gloves are better choices. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting and helpful. As usual, be safe, shoot well, and hopefully we'll see you next time.